I did my final presentation on Every Man the Morality play. This play was about God and how he's upset at every man because he isn't fearful of dying and going to heaven or hell. So God creates the reckoning. This is where he gets judged, the man gets judged, and he introduces death and asks every man if he's forgotten his creator. He gets shown this book of account, which is like the life that he's lived, all the good things and bad things he's done, and then every man realizes that he's either going to go to heaven or hell, and he's going to figure out along the way who's going to forsake him and who won't. There are a lot of characters in this play, but the most important ones are every man, that's one character called every man, God, death, good deeds, knowledge, strength, beauty, fellowship, and the messenger. The setting of this play is in the Roman Catholic time period. From some of the sources that I found, it's also a little bit medieval. But the themes of this play that I got was pilgrimage, which is the journey to a religious place, like the spiritual finding of yourself, death, which brings people to the final judgment, and reckoning, which determines whether you're focusing more on worldly things or godly things, and that determines in the very end if you end up in heaven or hell. The plot points that I want to discuss are the beginning, when God realizes that every man is living fearlessly. So he gets mad. He says, I'm going to create this reckoning. This book is going to determine your judgment between the life that you live. What type of life are you living? Are you living a godly one or a guilty one? Every man ends up figuring out at the very end that everyone forsakes him: beauty, strength, kindred, fellowship. All of them forsake him except the good deeds. The good deeds are the only thing that will join him in his journey to the grave, and that'll also help determine whether he goes to heaven or hell. I discovered that this is also kind of a medieval play, that it was written towards near the end of the 15th century, and that there's only 4 surviving versions left of this play. I think the context of this play is to make people realize that at the end of your life, what matters is the godly things, not the worldly things. And because this was written during a religious time period, I think that they were trying to give the message, like, you need to pick what's good and what's not good for the end of your life, because it's not the materialistic things in your life that matters. It's at the very end when you live the afterlife, if you're going to live in eternal damnation or if you're going to live in paradise. I've learned from previous productions that sound and lighting can make a story even more dramatic. So I'm going to utilize this into my creative process by adding scary noises and certain lightings to make it more dramatic, because the story is kind of a fearful one. So why this play? Why now? Why is it still relevant today? Because this story is still true for religious people today. This is something that people of religion like myself have not forgotten, that materialistic things are not godly, and that at the very end, everyone's going to be judged. So these morals need to stick with us, and it's still true today for people who believe in that stuff. So this is the color red that I would use when death enters, because in the beginning of the play, God sends death. So this is the color that I would use when death walks in, because red associates with hell, showing that if you don't do good, you will end up where the bad place is, and this is where the bad color that I associate it with. Now, when all of every man's materialistic qualities forsake him, such as beauty, strength, fellowship, when they all leave, I think this is sad. I associate that color with the color purple. So this is the color purple that I would use. It looks a little blue in the camera, but it's purple to me. And I associate that with distrust, with sadness, and then when joy comes in, which is the good deeds, which are the only thing that stick with him, I associate that good deeds sticking with him as a happy moment, that he's the only one that's going to join. So I associate that color with yellow, which this is yellow. It looks a little green, but this is yellow. These are the colors that I would use when associating certain scenes with certain occasions. The colors used are generally associated with those moods and feelings, so I would use those colors to match the situation to make it general. That's my cohesive version. So my dramatic element number 2 is sound. This sound that's playing right now is eerie, This is the sound I would play when death walks in because death is scary. So it would have the red light and this sound. So this is sad music. This is what I would play when every man realizes that everyone is beginning to forsake him. Beauty, strength, kindred, fellowship, all of them leave him, and the only person who's left with him is good deeds. So this is like more uplifting, joyous, like better things are coming. This is when every man realizes that good deeds is going to be the only thing that follows him on the journey to death. And this is him being happy because he realizes that not everyone is forsaken him, that good deeds, in fact, promises that he will stay. These choices influence my cohesive vision because, that sound definitely matches the occurrence of what's happening, sadness, happiness, scariness. It all makes sense. It matches the mood of the scene. Some questions that I was going through were maybe I shouldn't do eerie, maybe I should do empty, hollowness, echo-ness. When death comes in, it's lonely. I was wondering if I should have did eerie music or if I should have did like a big echo, like a bloop, to make everything sound like lonely, because that's what death is. Death is lonely. So those are some questions that I had. My personal reflection of all this is that before this class, I never even looked or listened at theater. This is my first time learning anything about it. So watching a play without having everything that I've learned, all the elements that I've learned from class, I would have just thought it was a mediocre, okay play. Now that I've taken this class and I know that lighting can change a whole feeling, can set the whole mood for a play, now I pay attention to lighting a lot more. The sounds, the way they're dressed, the way they walk around the stage, the way everything comes in together. It makes me more appreciative of theater because I know what the directors put in, what hard work they put in, the creativity ideas that they come with for their plays. It makes me more interested. So I now utilize those when I'm watching plays. I pay more attention to them. So I loved it. I loved it all.